गिरने न देगा मुझे, मेरी आँखों के आंसू को पोंछेगा वो, बाहों में लेगा मुझे, माँ की तरह मुझे थामेगा वो, गिरने न देगा मुझे, मेरी आँखों के आंसू को पोंछेगा वो, बाहों में लेगा मुझे, टूट कर बिखरने न देगा मुझे, मेरे ईश्वर का प्यार, जिसने अकेला न छोड़ा मुझे, कैसा अनोखा प्यार, उसकी निर्मलता में मेरा सामर्थ, प्रिय ईश्वर का प्यार, जिसने अकेला न छोड़ा मुझे, कैसा अनोखा प्यार, उसकी निर्मलता में मेरा सामर्थ, प्रिय ईश्वर का प्यार, जिसने अकेला न छोड़ा मुझे, कैसा अनोखा प्यार, माँ की तरह मुझे थामेगा वो, गिरने न देगा मुझे, मेरी आँखों के आंसू को पोंछेगा वो, बाहों में लेगा मुझे, टूट कर बिखरने न देगा मुझे, मेरे ईश्वर का प्यार, जिसने अकेला न छोड़ा मुझे, कैसा अनोखा प्यार, कैसा अनोखा प्यार, कैसा अनोखा प्यार।
Welcome everyone. Welcome to today's satsang. So today's Shabad is by Binduji, Guru Meri Puja. Then introduction by Michael as usual. Then today's talk is by Visheshji. Topic is Anurag Sagar. Then we'll have a short 5-minute session, dhyan session, to compose ourselves and put our attention towards our beloved. Then we'll play Master's YouTube video, and then we'll do group meditation. Thank you so much. Michael, you can start the recording now.
Namaskar ji, all my brothers and sisters. Today offering this prayer to our beloved Great Master Baba Sant Singh ji and our beloved Perfect Living Master Ishwar Puri ji. I request everybody to participate in this prayer. So please close your eyes and imagine we have lighted candle in our hand and offering this prayer to our Babaji. The lyrics is Guru Meri Puja. Guru Meri Puja, Guru Govinda, Guru Mera Par Brahma, Guru Bhagavanta, Guru Meri Puja, Guru Govinda, Guru Mera Par Brahma, Guru Bhagavanta, Guru मेरी पूजा। गुरु मेरा देवा अलख अभेऊ, सर्व पूजे चरण गुरु सेवू। गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्मा, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु बिन आवर नाही महिताऊ, आन तीन जपहु गुरु गुरु नाऊ। गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु मेरा ज्ञान गुरु हृदय ध्यान, गुरु गोपाल पुरख भगवान गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु की शरण रहू कर जोड़ी, गुरु बिना माही नहीं भूर। गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु बहुत ही तारे भव पार, गुरु सेवाते यम छुटकार। गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। अंधकार में गुरु मंत्र उजारा, गुरु के संग सगल निस्तारा। गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरी पूजा। गुरु गोविंद गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत गुरु मेरा पार ब्रह्म, गुरु भगवंत। Thank you very much.
My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to satsang. Welcome for another holy day in Holy Father God, where we all gather to give our weaknesses to the one who helps. We all have weaknesses, and every day I carry mine and I bring them to satsang and I give them to the perfect living master who will help me, because he's the only one that can help, and I hand him my weaknesses. Welcome to Ishwar Puri's Ji's satsang. Welcome to his holy company. and welcome to His grace, His love, and His help. It is good to lament and cry out loud and weep, for these are great resources. If you have pain, if you have a weakness, don't be silent. Cry out, weep, and lament, because this is how God created the creation. The mother always tries to hear if her child is whimpering, if he is crying, she directly attends to her child. And this is the way that God has made us, that once we start to weep, once we start to cry, then the help, the loving flow comes into us. The loving flow floods us, and that's how it is. That's how it is. So ignore those who make you fearful and sad, that degrade you back towards death and disease. And always be excited to the call of love that excites our spirit. This is what the saints and masters teach. And about the story about weeping, I have a beautiful Sufi story from Rumi, and it's about a sheikh. His name was Ahmad. He was a Sufi master, and he was called the debtor sheikh because he always borrowed from the wealthy and he gave to the poor Sufis, and he always borrowed, and he built an ashram. He built an ashram, and God always paid his debts. God always turned sand into flour for his beloved friend, the sheikh. And he kept giving out profusely throughout his life, even towards the end of his life, when the signs of death were clear and visible, and everyone knew that he's leaving, then he was still giving. And when the word went around that the sheikh is leaving, then all the creditors, all the creditors came and sat around him in a circle with very long, depressed faces, like this. And they sat around him, and he was thinking, oh my God, how could these desolate souls think that God doesn't have 400 golden dinars to give them back? But they all sat around him with sad faces and saying, how could you do this to us? But he kept silent, and he was gently, gently melting like a candle into himself and into eternity. Then, while they were sitting around him, a boy was calling out, halava, halava, halawi, the sweet halava, halava, halava. And then the sheikh thought that these people are looking at me with such bitterness, they need some sweetness to eat. So he nodded like this to one of his beloved disciples, and his beloved disciples went running to the boy, and he said, how much for this tray of halava? And then the boy said, half a dinar and some change. And the disciple said, but we are Sufis, don't overcharge the Sufis, how about half a dinar? Then the boy agreed and handed out the tray. And he handed out the tray to the sheikh, and the sheikh gave it out to all the creditors that were around him. And everybody ate, the creditors and the disciples, and everybody was happy. And then the boy came and he said, please give me my half a dinar. And the sheikh said, where would I come out with this money? You see all these creditors around me, I don't have this money, please sit with them and wait. The boy got so angry, he picked up the empty tray and he threw it on the ground very hard. And he said, you gluttonous Sufis, washing your face like cats, how could you do this to me? And he started weeping and weeping and weeping. And then he went to the sheikh and he said, please give me the half the dinar, because if I go back to my master empty-handed, he's gonna beat me up. The sheikh, with his spiritual powers, did not allow the creditors to pay the boy, because he did not allow the creditors to pay the boy. And the creditors joined in with the boy, and they said, how could you do this? You devoured all our property, all our money, and you are doing this also to the boy on your deathbed. And the sheikh did not respond to these calls of abuse that were around him, and he just put his blanket around him and started to melt into eternity. And everybody was angry, everybody was abusing him. And but you know, when the beautiful bright moon passes by the 10th door, he doesn't hear the barking dogs. And when an intoxicated king in God, drinking God's wine, sitting by the riverbank, he doesn't hear the frogs, but he listens to the music of the water. And the same thing, the crying and the shouting and the abuse of all the people around him did not bother him, because he was here concentrated all his attention on the 10th door and melting into eternity. He was welcoming death and he was welcoming death and welcoming his eternal home in the lap of God and the kingdom of God. And then while everybody was crying and shouting, somebody came with a tray, covered tray, and he handed it to the sheikh. The sheikh uncovered the tray, and a miracle was there. There were 400 golden dinars on one side and 1/2 dinar on the other side. It was from his friend. His name was Hatim. He was the beloved of God. Hatim was the beloved of God, and while he was in meditation, he heard the call of the master. He heard the call of the master with his open spiritual eye, and he sent 400 dinars and 1/2 dinar separate, and then he gave it to the disciples, and the disciples gave it to the master, and then everybody started to cry with remorse and saying, "O King of Sheikhs, please forgive us. O Lord of the hearts, please forgive us. Lord of all the mysteries, please forgive us. We didn't know." And then the Sheikh looked at them very sweetly, very kindly, and very gently, and he said, "You will not be accountable for all the abuse, for all the bad words you have thrown to me. You are all forgiven." And God heard the cry. God heard the cry, but his knot was not loosened until the boy was weeping. Until the boy was weeping, God's generosity did not descend. And this is the lesson for us, that we have to make our eyes, the pupil of our eyes, just like that weeping boy, if we want to wear the robes of spiritual sovereignty. This is the lesson from the Sheikh, that when we have pain, when we have weaknesses, then we can start crying to Father God. When there are weaknesses that hold us from God and the kingdom of God, we can cry to the Master. We can cry out loud. So then he hears our cries, and the loving and the flow of the loving milk of love comes to us and quenches our thirst, heals us, and takes our weaknesses and gives us spiritual strength in return. This is just, I wanted to do the introduction with this story about how our tears can open the floodgates of God and the kingdom of God. So now I welcome my very dear brother Vishesh, and I'm looking forward to listen to what he's gonna say.
Then I remember there are good qualities. Every person, even those you hate or they hate you, have some good quality. Think of a good quality you had, you need that person to behave differently. Because suddenly something has happened to your attitude. So I thought, if this is the power lying in our mind and recognized by a man who lived long ago, wrote about it, why not use it in our daily life? One of the advantages of knowing the power of our own mind, the power of our own consciousness, the power of turning this world around with what is in your head. Once I had a seminar about 30-40 years ago, a seminar on happiness, that what makes people happy. And I said, happiness comes from happiness. If you are happy, you will meet happy people. And so we did an exercise. There was a group of 20, 30 people. And we said, now for 1 week, all of you pretend that you are happy. Not that you are really happy, because nobody is really happy all the time. You have some moments of happiness, some moments of unhappiness, some ups and downs. But pretend, just pretend for 1 week that you're happy. Any person you meet, smile and show that you're full of happiness, even though it's fake. But you still show that happiness. After 1 week, we'll review how many angry people you met, how many happy people you met, how many people who you like to hate you met. So after 1 week, we reassembled to compare notes. All of them, without exception, said this whole week was wonderful. We met all happy people. Just by pretending that you're happy, you can make people happy, and that happy transmits back and forth to each other. So there was a book I read long ago, very popular at that time, called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. In that book, there is one chapter on smiling. And he said, when you smile, you disarm the other person. And you should smile whether you like to smile or not. I was surprised. He said, if you are not feeling like smiling, but you still smile, smile at every person you meet, and every person will smile back. It's so amazing that these things lie in your hands, not in the other person. We unfortunately hand over a lot of our state of happiness to other people. We don't realize that there's so much we can do to make other people happy also, then you become happy. If you are in a happy crowd, you are happy. And if you are listening to a person who's always depressed, you get depressed also with it. So therefore, this is very mutual exchange. The Swamiji of Agra, who said Shivdayal Singh, and he started this movement called Radha Swami and the Path of the Masters and so on. In one of his teachings, he says that love and devotion is the key to good meditation. If you do meditation mechanically, you get nothing. With love and devotion, you get it. But they say love and devotion only comes if the master is extending it to you. Because otherwise, you don't know how to present love and devotion on your own. In what way? What's the method? He says the method is pretend that you are devoted. He actually uses these words. Pretend that you are in love and you are devoted. Pretend in your own mind that and that pretense will become real over time. So he made a recommendation. Why I'm mentioning this thing to you is that these are very practical tips these people have given us. How so much of our life, of happiness or unhappiness, is dependent upon us and not upon others. And we are continuously becoming dependent on other people. What they say, what he said this, she said this, and we are messing up our own life based on what other people are saying. You should not bother what other people are saying. You should bother what your state of mind is, how happy you are. And you can pretend to be happy. You will make those people happy who are saying this or saying that. The other thing is that talking ill of somebody doesn't help us at all. And it's very common. Common gossip among people is to say some scandalous things, some things wrong about other people. So and so did this, so and so person did this, and enjoy saying all that. Great master, my teacher, my master used to say that there are many sins in this world, but they're pleasant, pleasurable sins. But talking ill of somebody is a sin that has no pleasure at all in it. So why talk ill of anybody? If you restrain yourself from passing judgment or talking ill of somebody, you make your own life better and your own life happy. So these are some few tips they've given. They're external and internal both, and they affect our life a lot. So that's why when you want to practice meditation of any kind, the best meditation is where you go within yourself through imagination, attention, and power of concentration. And do not go below the eyes, because if your goal is to seek higher awareness, nothing below the eyes can be found. No matter what yoga you have done, no matter what you're going to do, there is no awareness, higher awareness below the eyes. Stay in the eyes. Best way to meditate is to consider this body as a residence, as a house, that you are living in this body. That you are not the body, it's your house, dwelling place. This has got many floors, starting from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's a sixth floor based upon the energy centers below. Or you are already on the sixth floor when you are awake. We are all on the sixth floor when we are awake. Why go down to the basement and to other floors when you're already on the sixth floor? Proceed from there. So the meditation should be that you imagine this is a house which is a nice big room at the top. When you close your eyes, this room, it does not remain the size of the head. It expands. It's a big place. It can be as big as you want to make it. I was speaking in Lithuania the other day, and a person who was recording the event, he said, when I said the area inside can expand, he felt it expanded to such an extent that he himself expanded. And as he went on, he said the whole universe came into it. The whole universe came in his head. This is not a small place. It only looks small because we are outside. If you're inside, it's not small at all. It's as large as you want to make it. But start by making it a small place. Make it a small room on the sixth floor of your house. You sit in the center of that room. Examine it. We'll do little practice right now. You examine what's in that room. Is it dark? Are there some light spots? Are there some windows and doors? Does it need any furnishing? Does it need any drapes or something? And when you furnish your room, you put a nice carpet, not down anywhere, right in the sixth floor, the ceiling of the fifth and the floor of the sixth. Genuine imagination that you are sitting on that and a very nice, comfortable place, nice rug, nice drapes on the side, and a beautiful, wonderful chair to sit on or a cushion to sit on for meditation. Don't meditate outside. Don't meditate on a chair or a cushion or pillow outside. Meditate on a cushion or chair inside. Once you seat yourself inside, you can examine what the things are. Then think of nothing else except what the room looks like, what your chair looks like, what things that you see there look like. The longer you stay and examine things inside, all the attention will be drawn inside and a whole new world will begin to appear right inside. It's that simple. The only thing that comes in the way of doing it is our mind and its thinking process, which keeps on thinking of outside things. There's no other problem. While we are doing this, we keep on thinking of other things. If we can control that part, control at that moment, don't think of anything else, you will have a successful meditation. Would you like to try? You are all very good candidates for meditation and for discovering yourself. You are all seekers of the same truth that all people following religion, doing yoga all over the world are trying to find. Some of them spend so much time outside looking for these things, and you're carrying the entire treasure inside. The door will open right where you just visited inside. That's the place, the 10th door, the third eye, the eye behind these two eyes, where you were sitting and watching and doing all those things, where you saw those things. That's the place where you have to start. This is just a sampling. We don't have the time to do full-time meditation. Of course, those interested in doing more meditation with me can join one of the meditation workshops. We are having a meditation workshop, Jonathan.
September 12th, 13, and 14 in Rice Lake, Wisconsin.
In Rice Lake, Wisconsin, September 12, 13, and 14, those who want to go into extensive meditation can join me there, and we'll practice together so we can make some real progress, see a lot more than what you just experienced. But I'm happy that so many of you enjoyed this. So you see, it's not such a chore that we make meditation, because we think meditation is a mechanical thing. It's not. It's an interaction with your beloved. It's an expression of your love inside. It's a beautiful experience. And therefore, you will actually enjoy meditation. I would now like to answer some of the questions that you wrote up on those pieces of paper.
I am confused about what it means to go with the flow. Sometimes I think it means following other people's requests or suggestions, but often there are contradictory suggestions. And sometimes my own thoughts are different from other people's suggestions. What does it mean to go with the flow here?
That's a very good question. In the 60s, when I came to this country, the most popular slogan was, go with the flow. Everywhere I went, they said, yes, we are going with the flow. Nobody knew what it meant, but they kept on saying it. I began to think that the only way to go with the flow is to keep on saying it. Go with the flow. The truth is that there are two ways of going in life. One is to go with the mind, and the other is to go with the flow. When you make a decision with your mind where to go, then that is going with the mind. When you don't use the mind to make a decision where to go, and the guidance is given by something else, it's called going with the flow. Going with the flow is also called living in God's will, living in the higher will of the higher power, living of our own higher self. It is the same thing. Go with the flow means not going with the trend and direction given by your mind. There are two ways to judge what is the way to go with the flow. One is, what does your intuition say? The intuition, that gut feeling that you get suddenly what to do without having to think about it, before you have thought about it, when the gut feeling comes, let's go with the flow. It is accompanied, most of the time, this gut feeling is accompanied by an external evidence we call a coincidence. A coincidence supports that. Supposing your gut feeling says you should go west to that particular place, and you are driving your car and they says go west for some other reason altogether. You say, what is this? My gut feeling said west, but there's a sign saying west. Or I opened my book on a fiction story, and the page I turn starts with in the west. Where does this word west come? Outside and inside. It's a direction for go with the flow. If you follow these clues that come to you all the time with your gut feeling, and they're accompanied with indications from outside, that this is not a simple thought that came to you, it was accompanied by an evidence of outside coincidence. This happens, it gives you direction how to go with the flow. Otherwise, the circumstances around you tell you to go with the flow. Rumi, great poet, mystic Rumi, he says, people have asked me this question, how do you live in God's will? Isn't everything God's will? Even our mind functioning is God's will. And what is the meaning of living in God's will? His answer is, God has himself created two wills. He has created the mind as an individual unit functioning with free will of its own, and he's created himself in everything. So that's also evidence that God's will is expressed there. He says, when you go only with your thought stream, you are going with your mind. When you go besides that with what the circumstances are telling you, you're going in God's will. And he explains, for example, if God has given you a spade in your hand, He has expressed His will, dig. If He has given a pen in your hand, the circumstances have put a pen in your hand, He has expressed His will, write. So if you find that the circumstances have been placing you in a situation, you act in a particular way, act. Let's go with the flow. But if you start thinking with the mind, I am saying this, my friend is giving this suggestion, another friend is giving this suggestion, that's all mind's flow. That's not going with the flow. If you say people are advising me that I want to accept everybody's request, that's a mental game. That's not going with the flow. Going with the flow is ignoring everything the people say or your mind says, and then see what circumstances say, go with the flow. So this, again, going with the flow needs some practice. To do things without the power of thinking, but with the power of your own intuitive gut feeling. When you start doing that, Then think how to do it. Use the mind for the purpose for which it was given to us. The mind was not given to us to make decisions for us. The mind was given to us so that the soul's gut feeling decisions should be implemented by the mind. We should give direction to the mind. I know I have to do this, now do it like this, and make the mind work to do that which has come to you. You are going with the flow. That's how you go with the flow. A little practice will make you go very easily every day how to go with the flow. A little practice on these two principles. That means a decision made with the mind, either by talking to other people or thinking in your own head, is not going with the flow. When you go with the circumstances around you, what they dictate, somebody has come, ask for help, you help, because the circumstances created, you're going with the flow. Okay?
You frequently tell us that if we withdraw our attention, we will become aware of who we really are. Yet so many of us continue to be pulled, distracted, and confused because our attention remains on this world. Why is withdrawing our attention so difficult? Why does it elude so many of us, even when we try to meditate?
The answer is simple. The mind of a human being loves pleasure, loves pleasant things, and loves to write and go in the direction where it can seek pleasure. When the mind tries to go within, when our attention tries to go within, we see nothing but darkness. We run out, and there is all the pleasure. The same pleasure can become pain also, which it very often does. But at least we are seeking where we see something. Inside we don't. But with proper guided meditation, you will find more pleasure inside than you will find outside. Automatically, your mind will go in. But for the time that is not happening, the mind will have a tendency to go out. It's always been seeking pleasures outside. The mind has a habit of looking for pleasures. Secondly, it has a habit of seeking new pleasure. If one pleasure you get tired of, you want to find something else. That's the nature of the mind. Therefore, it wanders around all over outside. But once the inside experience becomes good, with proper guided meditation, you just told me you had a good time inside for a few brief moments. One day it will become so pleasant that the mind will not run outside to seek pleasure. It will always run inside to seek pleasure, and then the withdrawal of attention will become very easy.
Why do we have to meditate on the form of the Master when God is within us in the form of the Self? Shouldn't we start right out by seeing God as everything and love all?
Surely God is in all of us, but nobody has seen God, unfortunately. When you want to make a picture of God, that's seeing the mind, not God. Mind is not God. Mind is a servant. Mind has been given to us to serve us. We start treating our servant as God. What the biggest folly we can make. We start thinking that the mind's picture, mind's thoughts are God, making the biggest blunder of life. Mind is an obstruction right now to our own going within our own self. And how can we make mind and its thoughts and its pictures as God? That's not God. Of course, nobody has seen God and nobody has seen the self. We are only seeing pictures projected by the mind. If you want to see God, surely you see God inside when you know who you are first of all. When you will have seen yourself, you will have seen God. I promise you that. If you have seen your true self, you have seen the expanded self, that is God, that is the creator of everything. You are a part of that, have always been a part of that, never separated from it. It's the illusion of separation that you have to overcome. So you want to really see God? Sure, you should see God by knowing yourself. Don't see pictures outside and imagination outside and say it's God, which is most of us are making a big mistake, thinking that mind is God. Mind is not God. Mind is a machine. Mind just works for that. And we just make pictures with the mind and say, no, I am speaking to God. I am seeing God. You're just talking to your mind. You're talking to the very thing that's leading you to distraction. You're talking to the very little machine given to you at power to think. You begin to regard the thinking machine as God, and whatever it thinks becomes God. No. When you will go beyond the mind, you will see God. Till you can go there and see the God, where do you see God? At least when we say that meet a perfect living master is seeing God at the time when you see him. He's not seeing God some other time. When you are talking to a perfect living master, at that very moment he is actually seeing God. That's the best way I can see God in one. God is in everybody and everything, but you don't see it because the consciousness is not God consciousness. But when you meet a person with that consciousness, you are seeing a person in whom God is apparent to that person and visible. There's no better way to see God than to see one who has realized God and is sitting in front of us. That is why we say perfect living master is one who is seeing God at the time when he's talking to us. And he's with the same single awareness of God when he's talking to us as a human being. That's the best way we can see. That is why we recommend that if you want to see God at the earliest stages of your meditation, where you haven't reached anywhere near discovering who you are or discovering who God is, then the best alternative is to think of that person who has seen God, is with God at all times. So that's why we recommend a contemplation of the face of the Master. That is why we recommend initiation and following a perfect living Master. That the closest you can get in this life, in this physical world, to seeing God or being with God.
If one is inside, then will one be unaware of the outside?
Absolutely. We want to go inside, and we can't be inside so long as we are of the outside. This system of consciousness and the series of ways devolving of consciousness through dreamlike states from one level to another has been designed to create reality for us, not illusion for us. We are not seeing a movie. We are seeing how the process of suggestion, power of the mind's projection can create reality for us. This whole creation is based upon the concept that we have to create reality. At one time, there's only one reality. At this time, the outside is our only reality. When you go inside and also aware of the outside reality, you are not really gone inside. You are still in the twilight zone of fantasy and imagination. When you really go inside, the outside will disappear and be like a dream. When you wake up in the morning from a dream, you don't stay in the dream and stay up in the wakeful state. The dream has ended. It was a dream. It was not real. This is real. When you go to a dream, that is real, and this is not real. We've forgotten about it. So that is why when you have a real visit inside, this will become, you'll be unaware of this. It will disappear. When you come back, that will disappear, and that will look like a dream. People have such wonderful experiences in meditation, and they've seen things which are far more real than this, and they know it. When they're seeing it, this is reality. I have been here so long. This was my real home. And now when you come back, what a lucid dream I had. What a wonderful dream. Because this has become reality for us. And that cannot live like reality at that time. It takes the shape of a memory of something beautiful, wonderful, more real, yet not very distinguishable from a dream. So at one time we have only one reality. Except when we reach the top, we discover all realities were created out of the power of illusion. And the power of illusion created all. Then you can stay in all the different levels at the same time, knowing all are reality and all are unreal at the same time. And that state is only achieved when you go to totality of consciousness, not earlier. Before that, there's only one reality at one time. Yes, surely, when you are inside, you become unaware of the outside.
I always thought that our senses serve as the gateway to our inner self and can provide the first glimpse to awareness. Obviously, based on your experience, I am wrong, and the tangible world we see with our senses is separated from the real. Could you speak on that?
The sensory system is one. It is not two. That you have one system here in the physical world, you have another system inside. It's the same system. It's the system we call the astral self, we call the sensory body. The sensory body is not a body. It's a combination of sense perceptions that make that body. The power to see, the power to hear, the power to touch, taste and smell, these sensory experiences are built into the system that we call the astral body. It's not a separate body or something. It's our own senses which we are using now. Those senses, when purified by not being mixed up with material things, not being mixed up with the material body, becomes the astral body. Therefore, they are not separate senses outside and separate senses inside. They are the same senses which can operate very efficiently without the physical body are now operating through the cover of the physical body and with reduced efficiency in every level. We can't see very well with these eyes because we are seeing with the astral eyes through physical apparatus. The physical eyes are not seeing by themselves. If you are unconscious, the physical eyes are open, they don't see anything. When we are conscious, it's the consciousness that's making physical eyes see through the astral eyes inside. That you will discover when you withdraw your attention and make this body not part of the system of perceptions. The same perceptions are really using this body to become self-perceptions here. They are not two separate things. That is why don't think that there is a separate way of looking outside, separate way of looking inside. Use the same power of seeing, same power of hearing. Right now in the physical body you're using it outside. When you withdraw attention, with the same power you see inside. And the same power is functioning even at this time. You did an experience just now in meditation where I said, see your master, see your beloved inside. Which eyes saw that? Same power of seeing, but not these eyes. These eyes were closed. You close these eyes, yet in your imagination you could see. The imaginary eyes that saw were the same power of seeing, but not different power of seeing. The eyes were different because those are eyes of imagination, and these are eyes of the physical body. But the power that sees is the same in both cases. So it is not that I am saying that you can't use the sense perception to go in. I am only saying instead of looking out with the same power of seeing, look inside. It's not different.
Can you explain what certain colors and numbers mean in the astral plane and in our lives?
The numbers are a conceptual way of creating and observing creation. When we say number 2, we mean double. If you multiply by 2, you are doubling anything. It does not apply to any particular table or something. It applies if I say that your body has become double, it's been multiplied by 2. 2 is the power of doubling an experience. So when you have this number, all the numbers that we are using, and many which have not been used, are all expressive of a function in creating the blocks of experience that we are seeing outside and inside. So the numbers are actually powers of creating certain dimensions of experience in space and time. These numbers originate from the causal plane and they become more applicable, practical in the astral plane, and they become completely matter of calculation in the physical plane. In the causal plane, these numbers are living entities. They are living entities with souls. Like we have a soul here. A number is a living entity. 2 can speak to 3, which we can't do over here at all. They're just numbers. The numbers become entities as building blocks of all experiences at the causal plane. Similarly, shapes, geometrical shapes. What's a triangle? What's a rectangle? What's a circle? These are only used geometrical figures here. But when you go inside, you find that these very figures have been used to create the whole structure of all experience. And when you go to causal plane, there are entities in which you can have, because you don't have physical entities there, entities in conceptual terms. These are parts of the conceptual entities in which we live as souls. And therefore, when we go to the causal plane, you will see the reality of these. Since these are coming from there as building blocks of all experience, They have an influence here too. Whatever we are seeing here is also built up of colors and numbers and shapes. Everything is being built up with these concepts. The concepts start in the causal plane, they become ideas of application in the astral plane, they become solid material experiences in the physical plane. But they are the same concepts. They are the same operating through these covers upon ourselves. These covers are not separate beings, separate different worlds. These covers are about the same reality. Our soul is the reality that provides life and consciousness. When it's covered by the mind, it splits that reality, it expands that reality into time and space. Time begins to flow and space is expanded. When it comes into the astral plane, it splits that perception into different types of perceptions. Seeing becomes separate from hearing, touching becomes separate. When it comes to physical world and this last physical body, the same power through the same filters comes and operates here with the shapes and forms which make up this experience of the physical world. It's a beautiful way to create. It's the best way to create. It's been used as the most optimal way to create. That's why I say, go within, see from that side. We are seeing from the side of created form. Look at from the creation's point of view. And you will see how these are functioning at different levels, performing their functions and creating the experiences we are having right up to the physical plane. They're not separate. So therefore, they all have a significance even in our life over here.
Before the physical initiation, can those souls be seen attending the Master's satsang on an inner plane?
There is no physical initiation. Initiation is always inside. Initiation does not mean a perfect living master telling us how to meditate. All the masters tell us. You can even read in books. Initiation does not mean that how we can close our eyes and perform certain kinds of rituals about meditation. Anybody can tell that. Initiation is entirely a different thing. Initiation is a perfect living master in full consciousness of the entire secret of reality and secret of the Creator. In full consciousness says to us, I accept you as a friend of mine, let's go back home together. That's initiation. Initiation is acceptance by a perfect living master that now I take you, we'll travel back home together. It is not based on our karma. It's not based whether we are good or bad. It's not based upon a judgment. It's not based upon any teaching. It's not based upon any of these things. It's based upon whether when we came into this creation as individuated souls, whether we had a desire just to be here temporarily and go back home and made an arrangement for it. The arrangement itself brings the perfect living master into our life. We made it ourselves that if we get fed up of this new creation, new experiences and want to become seekers and go back home, such an experience should take place that a person projected by our own mind should come and be called perfect living master, and he should initiate, and that's the way process back we arranged ourselves before the world was created. And now therefore the perfect living masters who come as human beings in our lives, they come with the mandate at this time. These souls who had asked for this promise are ready. He searches as a human being, he meets the other human beings in whom those souls are now vested, and he says, time to go home. Yes, it's time, it is ready. Initiation, we are going back home. That's initiation. Initiation is a perfect living master taking full responsibility to take you back home without judgment, without conditions. If he says, oh, you follow this diet, if he says you do meditation regularly, if you say struggle hard for this, he's not saying that to your soul. He's saying that to your mind. So the mind says we can get nothing without our own struggle. Mind says unless we act, we are not going to be spoon-fed by anybody. The master has come to spoon-feed us, but we don't accept it. We say, no, we have to struggle, we have to deserve it first. We have to be good to be deserving. We have to do this. We pass judgment upon ourselves all the time, while the master is holding his hand and saying, no, time to go home, no judgment. He's not come to see how we are trapped in this physical world with our own karma. He knows karma is not on the soul at all. Karma is carried by the mind. The struggle with people, struggle with sickness and health, struggle with all this is on the mind and the body. Nothing to do with the soul. He's come for the soul to go back home and realize this. And when he says, I initiate you, he takes you back home, guaranteed. That's what initiation. So initiation, there's no physical initiation. Physical method is just to appease the mind, keep it busy, keep it away almost from the soul going back home, to almost feed it something. Okay, do meditation, do this, see these things, make it interested in that pathway within. And not that that meditation has never taken anybody home. People are meditating all their lives. It's the initiation by a perfect living master and the love and devotion that he makes us feel for him that takes us back home. So that's why there was a man, a very poor man in India, and he was living in a village, had no money at all, living, just surviving, with few belongings and few things he grew in a little piece of borrowed land. And he had a very strong feeling that there is a master pulling him, and he had a dream in which he saw a man with a white beard saying, come on, you are ready. He said, what is this call? He checked up and they said, there is a master living at that distance on a bank of a river. He said, I am going to go there. He had no money to buy a bus ticket. He took up a few of his belongings, put them in a bag, put it on his shoulder, started walking. He walked for almost a month, every day saying, you called me, I'm coming. You called me, I'm coming. And I was present with great master. He was just coming out of the door of his house. We were both standing outside. This rugged man, full of all the dust of his travel, carrying a little bag, came from a distance, threw the bag there, ran, fell at the feet of the great master, said, Master, I have come, initiate me. The master's words were, what, once again? He had never seen him physically. And master suddenly realized that what he had said. He said, oh, I mean, you were initiated the day you left your village. You mean to teach you how to meditate? We'll do it tomorrow morning. So, do not think that initiation by a perfect living master consists of anything more than accepting you as a friend who will go back home with him. So that's what is initiation. The rest is all for appeasing our mind, to make it work the way it likes to work, and then go back. There are so many things that happen at initiation, which we can't see outside, because we are living in a totally different kind of material, illusory world that has got so much limitation on it, on what we can see here. But when you go within and see how your destiny was created, how are you poor or rich, how are you born here or there, how did this happen? How come somebody is born in a very poor country, lives such a hard life, somebody is born in a rich country, in a rich place, and is having luxuries of his life? How can there be so much discrimination? Religions tell us that we are all children of God. What kind of God would be who would make so much discrimination amongst his own children and put so many of them into great suffering for no reason, and put so many to have the joys of life for no reason? How do you justify this discrimination? Well, the Eastern law of karma is a good explanation. Whether it's a good reality or not doesn't matter, it's a good explanation. That it is our own karma. That means our own actions have made us rich or poor. Our own actions make us sick or healthy. Our own actions are creating the problems of life. If you believe in the law of karma, that explains a lot. It's a law. They say you follow the law because the law cannot be broken by anybody. They say in the Bible, I read the blind, when a father brought his born blind son to the master, and he said, Master, this son of mine is born blind. Was he born blind because of his actions or the actions of his father? If he had no time to have any action, he just born. Father, why should the father be responsible for a child's blindness? Jesus answers, it is neither the sins of this child nor the sins of the father. It is that law may prevail. It says that clearly in the Bible. Which law? Which law explains that? Except the law of karma, except the law of reincarnation, except the law that says whatever you do, there's a reward and punishment set up for you. And this law creates the real prison house in which we are trapped here. Because we can't help but either do good or bad or indifferent things. Every time we do good, we are entitled to a reward. Every time we do bad, we have to be punished. Where? Over here. We can't get out of it. If there was one real stranglehold created for souls, this was it. The law of karma, the law of reincarnation, and being stuck with the law of punishment and reward. So that's why the people who are trapped here, perfect and master, don't come to judge. The judgment is going on already in our own minds. The judgment, the negative power itself provides enough judgment on us. There was a man, he came one day to the perfect living master. And he said, Master, forgive me. I sinned. Almost might be, he was thinking of his own confessional or something, that he talked like that to Master. I was there when this happened. The man fell at his feet, at the great Master's feet, and he said, Master, forgive me. You told me I should not drink alcohol. I drank with a group of people last night. I was drunk. You told me not to eat meat, and I ate all kinds of steaks that they served. You told me, don't open eyes, don't do this. I had all kinds of luxuries with women who were present in the party. Please forgive me. Great Master says, all right, you're forgiven. Don't do it again. Man said, thank you, and ran away. Everybody sitting around the Master, particularly the secretaries to the Master, he said, Master, what kind of thing was that? The man defied all your orders. He made all the big mistakes, and then you just say, forgive him. Supposing he does the same thing again and comes to you and says, forgive me, will you again forgive him? Master, I think I'll again forgive him. Master, when will you punish him? He says, don't you see, his mind is punishing him already. Don't you see, he's already being punished within himself. Don't put me into punishers. Let me remain in the group of forgivers. The great Master said, these perfect living masters who come here, they're forgivers. They don't come to punish, they come to forgive. They realize in what traps we are, what temptations are we are facing, the distractions we are facing. They know it. They know we are in a trap. They have compassion because of our condition, not judgment. Therefore, with their love and compassion, they forgive and they want to take us back out of this mess. They want to take us out of the law of karma. And as soon as you step out of the law of your mind, you'll be out of the law of karma. Karma is only in the mind. It is not on the soul ever. So that's why masters don't initiate you for nothing. What about this law of karma itself? The karma is of three kinds. One you're born with previous actions of past lives. You can be blind, you can be rich, you can be poor. You have no control over yourself. You never did anything in this particular birth. It's all from somewhere else that came up, from your own, because you are suffering. You did it. You did something. You are rewarded, you did something to gain the reward. Then you're doing the same things all over again in this life, and many rewards and punishments come right now in the same life. Some are carried on for the next life. We are so capable of taking decisions, good and bad. We take it all the time. It's not necessary to spell out in an action. A decision taken in our mind which is good, karma. A decision taken in our mind which is evil and bad is evil, karma. Even if there's no action following it, it's still being recorded and it's all collecting. We are capable of collecting so much of this karma that there is no way to put it all in the next life. What happens to most of it goes into another area called reserve. And the reserve is all held in the causal plane on the mind of the person. The same mind comes again and again, different bodies. That mind carries that baggage and that load on itself. And that whole cumulative effect of all the karma creates our attitudes and not events. Events are created by actual events that happen. But the attitude is created by a cumulative effect of all the karma, and that whole karma is then held in reserve. Then we create more karma now, and these three types of karma, the one we come with is destiny, what we call prarabdha in Hindi. Indian language, we call Kariman, or the new action we are creating in our mind or outside. And then there is a third one, the reserve, which we call Sinchit. These three karmas are holding us here forever. Biggest trap of our own making by thinking we are the mind and we are trapped in it. But when you are initiated by a perfect living master, the first thing he does at the very moment of initiation is he destroys all that Sinchit karma completely. So that there is no way anything from your past lives can be taken up to make a new life for you. The only area from where another life can be made is from what you do now in one life. So this life will be always better if you are a seeker and you're working on seeking yourself here, if necessary, to come in the next life. Then this will help you because there's a very small group of actions for which the next life can be made. That's a big advantage of initiation. Secondly, if you meditate properly or follow the instructions of the perfect living master who initiates you, and you say, I am the disciple of that particular master, and what he says, you do that, you don't have to come here again, ever. This is your last life. If you cannot follow the instructions, you fall.
Master's eyes are so gorgeous, I couldn't stop the video. They're so clear, he's so addictive. So now I guess it's time to meditate. So if we can forget about the body below and the world outside and come up here where Master is waiting so we can see him again inside. Hold his hand, have few nice words, and repeat the mantra slowly with intervals with the tongue of thought. I wish you the best meditation, and I hope to see you tomorrow for another holy day in Holy Father God. And I'll keep Zoom on for 20 minutes so we will meditate together.